At about 8 o'clock in the morning of October 23, 1980, Filomeno Urbano went to his rice field located at about 100 meters from the tobacco seedbed of Marcelo Javier. He found the place where he stored his palay flooded with water coming from the irrigation canal nearby which had overflowed. Urbano went to the elevated portion of the canal to see what happened, and there he saw Marcelo Javier and Emilio Erfe cutting grass. Urbano asked them who was responsible for the opening of the irrigation canal, and Javier admitted that he was the one. Urbano then got angry and demanded that Javier pay for his soaked palay. Then a quarrel between them ensued. Urbano unsheathed his bolo and hacked Javier, hitting him on the right palm of his hand, which was used in parrying the bolo hack. Javier, who was then unarmed, ran away from Urbano but was overtaken by Urbano, who hacked him again, hitting Javier on the left leg with the back portion of said bolo. When Urbano tried to hack and inflict further injury, his daughter embraced and prevented him from hacking Javier. Javier was brought to a doctor to treat his wounds. Upon the intercession of a councilman, Urbano and Javier agreed to settle their differences. Urbano promised to pay 700 pesos for the medical expenses of Javier. At about 1:30 a.m. on November 14, 1980, Javier was rushed in the hospital in a very serious condition. Javier had lockjaw and was having convulsions. The doctor, who personally attended to Javier, found the latter's serious condition was caused by tetanus toxin. He noticed the presence of a healing wound in Javier's palm which could have been infected by tetanus. On November 15, 1980, Javier died in the hospital. Filomeno Urbano was charged with the crime of homicide. After the trial court found Urbano guilty as charged. The Intermediate Appellate Court affirmed the conviction of Urbano on appeal but raised the award of indemnity to the heirs of the deceased to 30,000 pesos with costs against Urbano. Consequently, Urbano filed a motion for new trial. The motion for new trial was based on an affidavit of Barangay Captain Menardo Soliven which stated that sometime in the first week of November 1980, there was a typhoon that swept Pangasinan and other places of Central Luzon, including San Fabian. During the typhoon, the control gates of the irrigation dam were closed or controlled so much so that water and its flow to the canals and ditches were regulated and reduced. Due to the locking of the control gates of the dam leading to the canals and ditches, the water in said canals and ditches became shallow and suitable for catching mud fishes. On November 5, 1980, while Barangay Captain Soliven was conducting survey in the affected area, he saw Marcelo Javier catching fish in the shallow irrigation canals with some companions. Was the wound inflicted by Urbano the proximate cause of Javier's death? The court ruled in the negative. The incubation period of tetanus, that is, the time between injury and the appearance of unmistakable symptoms, ranges from 2 to 56 days. However, over 80% of patients become symptomatic within 14 days. A short incubation period indicates severe disease, and when symptoms occur within 2 or 3 days of injury, the mortality rate approaches 100%. Medically speaking, the reaction to tetanus found inside a man's body depends on the incubation period of the disease. In the case at bar, Javier suffered a 2-inch incised wound on his right palm when he parried the bolo which Urbano used in hacking him. This incident took place on October 23, 1980. After 22 days, or on November 14, 1980, he suffered the symptoms of tetanus, like lockjaw and muscle spasms. The following day, November 15, 1980, he died. If, therefore, the wound of Javier inflicted by Urbano was already infected by tetanus germs at the time, it is more medically probable that Javier should have been infected with only a mild cause of tetanus, because the symptoms of tetanus appeared on the 22nd day after the hacking incident, or more than 14 days after the infliction of the wound. Therefore, the onset time should have been more than 6 days. Javier, however, died on the second day from the onset time. The more credible conclusion is that at the time Javier's wound was inflicted by Urbano, the severe form of tetanus that killed him was not yet present. Consequently, Javier's wound could have been infected with tetanus after the hacking incident. Considering the circumstance surrounding Javier's death, his wound could have been infected by tetanus 2 or 3 or a few but not 20 to 22 days before he died. The rule is that the death of the victim must be the direct, natural, and logical consequence of the wounds inflicted upon him by the accused. And since the court is dealing with a criminal conviction, the proof that the accused caused the victim's death must convince a rational mind beyond reasonable doubt. The medical findings, however, lead the court to a distinct possibility that the infection of the wound by tetanus was an efficient intervening cause later or between the time Javier was wounded to the time of his death. The infection was, therefore, distinct and foreign to the crime. Doubts are present. There is a likelihood that the wound was but the remote cause and its subsequent infection for failure to take necessary precautions with tetanus may have been the proximate cause of Javier's death with which Urbano had nothing to do.